26, we have mode, median, mean, and range. I'm going to start there. So we need to figure out what each of those words mean, right? Mean and mean, haha, bad joke, sorry. Alright, so we've got sets of numbers. They're going to give you at least 2, but who knows how many. Tons of numbers. There's one there we've got with 11 numbers, okay? So we need to figure out what each of those words mean. So this is kind of starting us off as we talk about statistics. When you are all big and grown up and take a statistics course, if you ever decide to, this is going to come up a lot, okay? So we've got the tendencies in a set of numbers. That's what we're talking about with mean, mode, and median. So we've got, what do they give us there? 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 7, 8, 8, 9, 10, and 784. That random 784 is thrown in there. Okay, it says the number 2 appears more than any other number, and since it appears most often, it is the mode. So whichever number appears most often is the mode. Okay, if it has no number that appears 2 or more times, then that set of numbers has no mode. Okay, so if there's nothing that appears more than twice, does it have a mode? Come on, does it have a mode if there's nothing that appears more than twice? No, exactly. So we can just say no mode or not applicable or however you want to put that. None, however. So when we think about the median, we actually have to take those numbers and put them in order.
From least to greatest.
From least to greatest. Exactly. Work from the outsides, cross them off, whichever one's in the middle. What if you have 2 in the middle?
Then there's the
Both of them? We got to take the average of those 2 numbers. Okay, you're going to add them together and divide by 2. That's the definition of average, right? Add the numbers together, sum of numbers, divided by number of numbers. So for the median, if you have 2 numbers in the middle, we're going to find the average of those 2 numbers. Okay? All right. We've got to then look. The mean is our big fancy word for average of the whole set. Okay, so we have mode, whichever one appears most often, at least 2 or more times. We have median, whichever one's in the middle, and then we have mean, which is another fancy word for average. Okay, can we just pause? We'll do that afterwards. Thank you, ma'am. All right. The last piece to this is our range. What is a range? What is a range? The difference between your greatest number and your least number. So if you think about the range in ages at Bright Futures, how old is our youngest student? 10 or 11? 11? 11. How old is our oldest student? 18, right? So, yeah, 18. So our range, 11 years old to 18 years old, we have what kind of range in age of the students at Bright Futures? 7 years, exactly. Okay? We could do the range of the teachers' ages, but I don't want to give anybody away. Okay? So, the range of students' ages.
65 is the oldest.
Who's 65?
Mr. Clark.
Mr. Clark is 65?
They said.
Okay. I thought he was younger than that. I mean, he's looking good for his age, right? He might be. We'll have to figure it out. We can find the range of the teachers' ages, right? We got to take the oldest age, subtract the youngest age, and whatever that difference is our range. Okay? Think about, I went this week. Miss Watson is? You think I'm older than Miss Watson?
You said Miss Watson. She's 35.
Yeah,
I thought you said you were 30.
I'll be 28 on Friday of next week.
Oh.
Yep, a week from tomorrow. The big 2-8. Mr. Mooney last year, he was the youngest. He had me beat. All right, so our range. Another thing we can think about when you think about a shooting range, right? I went with my brother this past weekend, and we went to a shooting range. I did. I shot at 85.
It's loud.
It's very loud. You have to wear earplugs. Noise protection. So, at a shooting range, right, they tell you how far the distance is. That's the range. So you know how far. So it's a difference. However far you are from where you started, that's the range, right? That's why it has that name. So, as we think about range, all sorts of different ways to remember it, right? All right, range, difference. So we come to our first example, 26.1. A high school counselor administered a math test to 12 8th grade students for their high school placement. The 48, 26, 50, 55, 40, 34, 42, 47, and 50. Tell me this. Is any of that information that you were given previously of any necessity as you figure out this problem?
Yeah.
Yeah? What do you need to know about it?
Okay, you say is any of the information that you just gave me.
Besides the numbers that I said, I should take that back. Is a high school counselor administered a math test to 12 8th grade students for their high school placement necessary? Yes? Why?
Because it tells us how many students.
Okay? I'm not trying to take away from that answer, but could you count the numbers? Yep. So you could figure that out without all those crazy word stuff, right? Alright, so the reason I bring that up is I don't want those words to confuse you in math problems, okay? So we can take out any of the extra. They're going to put a whole bunch of fluff into word problems. And your job as math students is going to be to pick through that fluff and figure out what is the necessary information, right? So for this, they tell you 12, so you don't have to count. So that is a good necessary piece. You can pull that rather than counting the numbers. But all that other stuff about a placement test and high school math and 8th grade students, it's just words added to the math problem that you're supposed to solve, right? So all of the word problems, even as you're looking through, they always put them at the beginning here, like 1 and 2 in your problem set. Don't let those words get in the way of you doing the math, okay? That's why I like pictures. That's why I like to kind of visualize what it's asking you. You can pull out the necessary information and throw away the fluff, okay? So we're working on throwing away the fluff. Make sense? Make sense, Demar? Yeah? Okay. You got it, Tamika? Beautiful. All right, so find the range. So who's our biggest, who got the best score? Yep, go look at it. The 55. Thanks, Destiny. So the 55 is the guy who got the best score, or girl. Let's give those ladies credit. Who got the worst score? 26. Good. So if 55 is my best score and 26 is my worst score, what is my range? What do I need to do with those two numbers? You got to subtract. And when I subtract 55 minus 26, what do I get? 29. Good. Next, you're asked to find the mode. Mode means what? Exactly. The number with the... You have to have it at least twice, and it's repeating, right? I think that's what you meant. Just make sure. So what repeats? Does anything repeat? 40 and 50 both repeat. So, in the set of scores, 40 and 50 both appear twice. No number appears more than twice, so we've got two modes, 40 and 50. And sets of numbers with two modes are called bimodal. So you can have a bimodal number. Okay? You can have more than one mode. If you have more than one mode, your job is not to take the average, it's to give me two of them. Okay? Versus the median, which if there are two, you have to give me the average of the two. Okay, so be careful with that. Yes.
Instead of me doing this on the card thing, can you put some work in for this?
For median mode, we can do that. The only thing is on tests, and I would have to cover it up.
Yeah, they did that last year.
They did that last year. We can do that. All right. Let's think about our median. What's our median for this numbers? We haven't put them in order, so we might want to do that first, right? And then we can do like Tamika said, and we can cross off until we get to the middle, okay? You don't actually physically have to do that if you don't want to, but again, part of showing your work, okay? So, 26 all the way up to 55. So they've done it for us in our solution, but I know you guys could figure that out. We're good at putting numbers in order. Okay, so if we look at it, start on the outside, where do we end up? What is our median for these scores? So there's no number in the middle, but that means we've got how many in the middle? Come on.
2.
2. And when you have 2 in the middle, what do you have to do? Add them together and then?
Divide them by 2.
Divide them by 2. You're taking the average of those two medians. Okay? 85 divided by 2. Good. And you get 42.5. And then last but not least, for our mean, the fancy way of saying average, we've got to take them all, add them up, and and then divide by our number of numbers. So we get 505 over 12, and when you do that math, you get about 42.08. So our mean is 42.08. What's that? Why did they add a decimal? Because when you take 505 and you divide it by 12, you don't get an exact number. You get a decimal. So you guys are going to have to do out the long math. But since you asked me, it's 42.083 repeating with a rough sense over just 3.
Like some days we get to lesson 30 something and won't did all these concepts, but we still learn more and we still come back like adding a whole bunch of numbers, doing on the video. If you know how to do it, then you should just let us use calculator.
Well, my problem, the reason I can't let you use a calculator is that for some of them I would love for you to be able to use a calculator, like when we get to pi, but there's no way for me to tell you use a calculator on 1 and 7 and 8, but don't use a calculator on the rest. So in order to just help you guys continually improve your math skills, we've just kicked the calculator out of PreAlgebra altogether. Sorry to say.
In other schools they have calculators?
In other schools they do sometimes have calculators. Nope.
We use calculators.
If Miss Watson lets you, that was a little bit different. In PreAlgebra, the rule is no calculator ever. If you want to use a calculator to check work after you've already done it longhand to show me your work to get credit, I'm okay with that. But you need to do all the work by hand. Yes, it will get long, it will get tedious at times, but it's all for your benefit so that you guys can improve your multiplication and division skills. Okay? You're going to have to use those for the rest of your life. And we're trying to keep those brains sharp. Okay? Alright, let's flip our page. Page 88. We are back to averages in word problems. Okay? So we've already started some averages in word problems. You guys have seen a few of those, but now we're just going to expand a little bit more. Okay? Example 26.2. When the boys measured the distance 3 times, they got 3 different answers. If the measurements were 4.017 meters, 4.212 meters, and 3.996 meters, what was the mean of the 3 measurements? We said mean and average can be traded out. So for that one, what are you going to do? You got 3 numbers, 3 different measurements. What am I going to do with them? I need to find their mean. Add them up and then divide by 3. Exactly. So when we do that, if you look at the math, they've done it for you. 12.225 meters. When we add and subtract decimal places, what's the key? For adding and subtracting decimals, our key is line up the decimals. So make sure that we always line up those decimals, okay? Line up those decimals. So that one was pretty easy. They all had 3 decimals. We can add them all up. We get 12.225. Divide that by 3, we get 4.075 meters. Okay? Example 26.3. When Athena sprang in full armor from the head of Zeus, 2 other gods guessed the weight of her panoply. One guess was 41.802 kilograms, and the other guess was 37.408 kilograms. What was the mean of the 2 guesses? Don't worry about it. The mean of the 2 guesses. So, for mean, it's another fancy way of saying average. And how do I find the average of 2 numbers? We just did it. We got to do it again. We're just practicing. Add them up. Divided by 2. Good. So, make sure we line up our decimals. Again, they both have 3. Sounds pretty easy. Alright, and the last one is the one I really wanted us to talk about to make sure. This one's going to be more similar to the ones that we were doing before. Okay? It tells us the mean weight of the 3 pigs was 320 pounds. So the mean weight was 320. They were pretty big, but they're pigs, so it's okay. The mean weight was 320 pounds. How do we calculate the mean? We can substitute out average anytime we want to. So I'm going to give us the formula. Average equals what? How do we write this formula out? The top, the sum, good. Sum of the numbers over how many numbers? The number of numbers. Okay? So we've got our formula. We know 320 pounds. So we can plug that in here in our average, right? 320 pounds. It says the sum of the weights is 320 pounds times 3, or 960 pounds. We call our missing weight P. Okay? Get the mean of the three weights. Oh, that's the solution. I'm not reading the right part. I didn't. The first pig weighed 220 pounds. And the second pig weighed 240. How much did the third pig weigh? Okay, so you've got three numbers.
This is 0 or 6?
Right here?
Yeah.
0. Okay? So, our job now is to figure out the weight of the third pig. My suggestion is to draw it out the way we've got it on the board so far. Put your three blanks so that you know what you're looking for. Okay? We know over here, can you see this, Destiny? Okay?
And
Over
it still
here,
gave us the mean?
it gave us the mean. Yep. So our job, we need to figure out what that third pig weighed in order to get a mean of 320 pounds. So, what am I going to do? Do I know my sum of numbers? Not yet. Do I know my number of numbers? What is it? Over 3. Exactly. So I have question mark over 3. We said when we have question mark on the top, how do we solve for question mark?
We multiply the number of numbers.
Exactly. We're going to have to multiply. So we said the sum of numbers equals my average times my number of numbers. Okay? So when I multiply 320 by 3, what do I get? 960. Good. So 960 is my sum of numbers. So where now do I need to plug 960 in to figure out the weight of my third pig?
220 plus 240 plus question mark equals 960.
220 plus 240 plus question mark equals 960. Good. So what is 220 plus 240?
60.
460. So, now what's my third pig's weight? 500. I gotta take my 460 away. So my third pig is 500 what? Pounds. LBS. 500 pounds.
They gave you that information too?
We figured out 960 was what we figured out. We did 320 by 3 to figure out our sum of numbers. So that's why when we write out the formula, we can figure out what we don't know, and then we can solve for our sum of numbers. Does that make sense? Okay, so we just got to look at what we know. That's why I like these three blanks. We know pig number 1, we know pig number 2, and pig number 3 is the one we don't know, right? We know that it's going to equal the sum of numbers. Yes? Okay. Questions on that? You guys think you can apply that? And do it? Alright, we've got two practice problems. A and B. You've got a range, mode, and median and mean for the first one, and then a word problem for the second one. So, hit the road on those, and I will check them when you're finished and call them set 26, 1 through 30.